Right now, across millions of acres in America, something extremely valuable is happening inside the cornfields. The plants may look almost finished from the outside, but inside every ear, thousands of kernels are still developing. And what happens during these final weeks of August could determine whether American farmers finish the season with an average harvest or a record-breaking one. This is the critical grain filling stage, and farmers are watching it very closely. By late August, the American corn crop has entered one of the most important stages of the entire growing season. From Iowa and Illinois to Indiana, Nebraska, and Minnesota, cornfields are changing rapidly. The tall green plants are beginning to look more mature, but the real action is happening inside the ears. After pollination, each fertilized kernel begins filling with starch. Day by day, those kernels become larger, heavier, and more valuable. This process is called grain filling. And for American farmers, it is a race against time. Every additional day of healthy grain filling can add weight to the crop. But heat, drought, disease, insects, or an early weather event can slow that process down and ultimately reduce yield. Section 1. What is happening inside the ear? If you opened a corn ear during this stage, you would see that the kernels are far from finished. The tiny kernels are rapidly accumulating starch and moisture. The plant is still sending energy from its leaves and stalk into the developing ear. Think of the corn plant as a factory. The leaves capture sunlight. Water and nutrients move through the plant. And the ear becomes the storage facility where that energy is converted into grain. This is why healthy leaves are so important in August. Farmers want the plant to stay green and active for as long as possible because those leaves are still producing the energy needed to fill the kernels. A crop can look impressive from the road, but appearance alone doesn't tell the whole story. What matters is how efficiently those plants can continue filling the grain during the final weeks before maturity. Section 2. Why August weather matters? This is where weather becomes critical. Corn needs moisture during grain filling, but too much heat can create serious problems. When temperatures become extremely high, the plant can lose water quickly. If soil moisture is limited, the plant may struggle to maintain normal photosynthesis. That means less energy can reach the developing kernels. Farmers therefore watch weather forecasts, soil moisture, crop conditions, and field-by-field differences very carefully. A timely rainfall can be extremely valuable. But farmers cannot control the weather. What they can control is how they manage the crop and how quickly they respond when problems appear. Section 3. Farmers are watching the crop closely. During this stage, farmers may walk fields, inspect ears, check kernel development, and look for signs of stress. They are watching for diseases, insect damage, stalk problems, and areas where plants are showing unusual symptoms. They also pay attention to whether the crop is developing evenly. One field may be progressing rapidly, while another field only a few miles away may be behind because of different planting dates, soil conditions, rainfall, or temperatures. This is why August is not simply a waiting period. For farmers, it is a monitoring period. The decisions and observations made now can influence what happens when harvest finally begins. And there is another major factor approaching, the moment when those kernels stop gaining significant weight and the crop moves toward physiological maturity. That stage is getting closer every single day. Transition to part 2. But here is where the story gets even more interesting. Farmers are not only trying to protect the kernels from August weather. They are also preparing for the final stretch toward harvest, when moisture, stalk strength, disease pressure, and timing can make a major difference in the value of the crop. So what exactly happens to the corn during those final weeks? And how do American farmers decide when the crop is truly ready to come out of the field? That is where the final race to harvest begins. Section 4. The final weeks before harvest. As August moves toward September, the corn crop enters another important transition. The kernels continue developing until they reach physiological maturity. At that point, the plant has essentially finished putting new dry matter into the grain. For farmers, this is a major milestone. But the crop still isn't necessarily ready for the combine. The kernels contain significant moisture, and the corn needs time to dry down in the field. This creates a difficult balance. Harvest too early, and farmers may have to spend more money drying the grain. Wait too long, and the crop can face risks from storms, stalk weakness, disease, lodging, or other field problems. Section 5. Protecting yield until harvest. That's why farmers continue watching their fields even when the crop looks almost finished. Strong stalks are important because heavy ears can put additional pressure on mature plants. Weather also remains a major concern. A powerful windstorm can push mature corn to the ground, making harvest slower and more expensive. Disease can also become a problem if conditions remain favorable. So the goal is simple: protect as much of the potential yield as possible until the combine finally enters the field. For America's farmers, every kernel matters. A small percentage of lost yield across thousands of acres can represent a significant financial loss. Section 6. When the combines arrive. Eventually, the waiting ends. The kernels reach maturity, moisture begins falling, and farmers start making harvest decisions. Combines move into the fields, harvesting the ears and separating valuable grain from the rest of the plant. What began months earlier as a tiny seed has now become a major agricultural commodity. And that is what makes the August grain filling stage so important. The final yield is not created in a single day. It is built gradually, from planting, pollination, kernel development, and finally grain filling. Ending: strong close. So the next time you see an American cornfield in late August, remember what is happening beneath those green leaves. Millions of kernels are still gaining weight. Farmers are watching the weather, checking crop conditions, protecting the plants, and preparing for one of the biggest harvest operations in American agriculture. The field may look quiet, but inside every ear, the crop is still working. And with harvest getting closer every day, these final weeks could determine just how successful the season will be. This is the final countdown to America's corn harvest.